Bert. Honest Injun. Well, I ain't going back there anyway.
Thank you, Huck. Well, look at them young birds coming along. Flying a yard or two at a time and lightning.
What about them young birds?
Oh, that's a sign it's going to rain.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But I'll catch some of them.
Oh, you can't. You mustn't. That'll be death.
A lot of things are bad luck, aren't they, Jim?
Yeah, you can't go against the sign.
It looks to me as though all the signs was about bad luck. Aren't there any good luck signs?
Mighty few. And they ain't no use to nobody. What you want to know what good luck's going to come from? Want to keep it off? If you've got hairy arms and a hairy breast, it's a sign that you're going to be rich. Well, there's some use in a sign like that, in case you're so far ahead.
Have you got hairy arms and a hairy breast, Jim?
What's the use to ask that question? Don't you see I have?
It's raining, Jim.
Ain't no surprise to me. I see the sign. Listen to me, child. Chickens know when it's going to rain, and so does the birds. We got to get on out of these woods and get someplace warm. I know a cabin up the island for you. Come along with me.
Well, it rained for 12 days. The river went on rising till it went clean over the banks, and one day they caught a little section of a lumber raft just big enough to hold all their things, of which they had considerable by now. Even some women's clothes they found in a deserted shack along the river. On the 13th day, the rain stopped.
I reckon I'd slip over the river, Jim, and find out what's going on.
That's the right smart idea, Huck. But you got to go in the dark and look mighty sharp. How about them women's clothes?
How about them, Jim? Do I look like a girl?
It looks like they're most made for you, Huck. And with that sunbonnet on your head, tied down, seeing your face would be like looking down at the giant of a stovepipe. Want to be sure you don't hitch up your dress.
What you mean?
Well, don't go reaching in your breeches pocket.
Well, land sakes, little girl, come in.
Thank you, ma'am.
And what might your name be?
Sarah Williams.
Whereabouts do you live? In this neighborhood?
No, in Huckleberry, 7 miles below.
Well, it's a considerable way to the upper end of town. You better stay here all night. Take off your bonnet.
Oh, no. I'll rest a while, I reckon, and then go on. I ain't afraid of the dark.
Oh, we've got plenty of excitement around here. A young boy called Huck Finn was killed the other day. For a while, some people thought that his own pap did it. Most everybody thought it at first. You'll never know how nigh he come to getting lynched. But before night, they changed around and judged it was done by a runaway slave named Jim.
Why,
What was you going to say?
Nothing, ma'am. Are they after him?
Well, you're an innocent. Is $300 lying around every day for people to pick up? Some people think he ain't far from here.
No.
I'm one of them, but I ain't talked it around. What did you say your name was?
Mary Williams.
I thought you said it was Sarah when you first come in.
Oh, yes, my dear. Sarah Mary Williams. Mary. Sarah's my first name. Some calls me Sarah, some calls me Mary.
I see, Sarah, Mary. I wonder if you'd do a favor for me.
Anything you say, ma'am.
Hold this ball of yarn for me. Here, catch.
Oh, shucks. I didn't mean to drop it, ma'am.
Just as I thought. Now, what's your real name? Is it Bill or Tom or Bob or what?
Oh, please don't poke fun at a little girl like me, Mom. If I'm in the way here...
Yeah, well, now you can tell me your secret. And trust me, I'll keep it. And what's more, I'll help you. What's your real name now?
George Jones Hoysgrath, ma'am.
Well, try to remember it, George. You do a girl tolerable poor. Bless your child, when a girl tries to catch anything in her lap, she throws her knees apart. She don't clap them together the way you did when you catch that ball of yarn. Now, trot along, Sarah Mary Williams, George Jones Hoysgrath. And if you get into trouble, you send word to Mrs. Judith Loftus, which is me. And I'll do what I can to get you out of it.
Thank you, ma'am. You've been awful kind to a poor little girl, and she ain't never...
What's that?
I mean to a little boy, and he ain't never going to forget it.
Thank you, ma'am.
If I'd been in your spot with that woman, Huck, I think I could have done better, but we'll just forget about that.
You could not have done better, Mr. Wells. Even Tom Sawyer couldn't have done better.
I said we'd forget about it. For days, Huck and Jim on the raft slid down the waters of the Mississippi bound for Cairo at the bottom of Illinois. They traveled at night, laying up along the Missouri shore in daytime. Mornings before daylight, Huck would slip into a melon patch, and it'd be nice and cool for their breakfast. And they'd laze through the day swimming a little maybe, or Huck could show off his education. He'd read to Jim out of a book they picked up in one of their excursions. Considerable in this book about kings and dukes and earls.
So many of them, Huck. How much did your king get?
Get? Why, they get $1,000 a month if they want it. They can have just as much as they want. Everything belongs to them.
Ain't that gay? And what they got to do, Huck?
They don't do nothing. They just sit around.
No? Is that so?
Yeah, they just lazy around or go hawking. Or other times when things is dull, they fuss with the Parliament, and if everybody don't go just so, he whacks their heads off. But mostly they hang around the harem.
Round the which?
Harem.
What's the harem?
The place where a king keeps his wife. Don't you know about the harem? Solomon, he had about 1 million wives.
Oh, yeah, that's so. I didn't forget it. A harem's a boarding house, I reckon. Most likely there was rackety times in the nursery.
And there's other kings, Jim. There's Louis XVI that got his head cut off in France long ago. And there's a little boy, the Dauphin, that would have been king, but they took and put him in jail. And some say he died there.
Poor little fella.
Some say he got out and got away. And he come to America.
That's good. But he be pretty lonesome. There ain't no kings here, is there?
No.
Then he can't get no situation. What are you going to do?
Well, I don't know. Some of them gets on the police, and some of them learns people how to talk French.
Well, don't the French people talk the same way we does?
No, Jim. You couldn't understand a word they say. Not a single word.
Well, now, I'll be ding buster. How'd they do that come?
Oh, I don't know, but it's so. I got some of the jabber out of a book. Supposing a man was to come to you and say, "Parlez-vous français," what would you think?
I wouldn't think nothing. I'd take him and bust him over the head. I wouldn't allow nobody to call me that.
Shucks, it ain't calling you anything. It's only saying, do you know how to talk French?
Well, then why couldn't he say it?
Well, he is saying it. That's a Frenchman's way of saying it.
It's a blamed ridiculous way. I don't want to hear no more about it. Ain't no sense in it.
Looky here, Jim. Does a cat talk like we do?
No, cat don't.
Well, then does a cow?
No, cow don't either.
Well, does a cat talk like a cow or a cow talk like a cat?
No, it don't.
Well, it's natural and right for them to talk different from each other, then ain't it?
Cool.
And then ain't it natural and right for a cat and a cow to talk different from us?
Why, most surely it is.
Well, then why ain't it natural and right for a Frenchman to talk different from us? You answer me that.
Is a cat a man, Huck?
No.
Well, then, there ain't no sense in a cat talking like a man. Is a cow a man? Or is a cow a cat?
No, she ain't neither of them.
Well, then, they ain't got no business to talk like either one or the other of them. Is a Frenchman a man?
Yes.
Well, then blame it. Why don't he talk like a man? You answer me that.
Well, Huck and Jim judged 3 nights more to bring him inside of the lights of Cairo, where the Ohio River comes in. They could sell the raft and get on a steamboat and go way up the Ohio amongst the free states where Jim would be safe and they'd be out of trouble. So for 3 days and 3 nights, they floated on. Huck and Jim alternating on watch. Seen most a dozen times, one or the other of them thought they saw the lights of Cairo, but every time it turned out to be nothing but a little settlement or something. But then suddenly, on the evening of the 4th day...
Huh? What's a worrying you now, Jim?
Them lights over yonder.
Oh, they ain't so many lights, Jim. We've been fooled afore.
It's Cairo. Yes, it's the lights of Cairo. Well, we'll say, we'll say, jump up and crack up your heels. That's the good old Cairo land. I know it is.
Fine nation, Jim. I reckon you're right. Look at them lights, Jim. Lit up like a Christmas tree. I'm going over and take the canoe and see. Help me float her.
There's your paddle, Huck. And here's my coat foot in the bottle. Now you'll be more comfortable that way.
Let her go, Jim.
Goodbye, Huck. There you go. The old true Huck. The only white gentleman that ever kept his promise to old Jim.
Well, that was quite a tribute, Huck.
I guess so, Mr. Wells. Only I was getting sicker and sicker. I didn't know what to do. It was my bounden duty to Miss Watson not to help a runaway slave. But Jim had always been mighty good to me, and his last words seemed kind of to take all the tuck out of me. I went along slow, not knowing what to do. Right then along comes a skiff with 2 men in it, with guns.
Hey! Boy! What's that floating yonder?
Piece of raft.
Any men on it?
Only one, sir.
Well, there's 5 slaves are off tonight up yonder, above the head of the bend. Is your man white or colored? Well, speak up, boy.
He's white, mister.
All right, boy. If you see any runaway slaves, you can help, nab them. You can make some money by it. Bye.
Goodbye, sir. I won't let no runaway slaves get by me if I can help it. Well, they went off, Mr. Wells, and I got aboard the raft, feeling bad and low, because I knowed very well I'd done wrong. And I see it weren't no use for me to try and learn to do right. A body that don't get started right when he's little, well, he just ain't got no show. Then I thought a minute, and I says to myself, hold on now. Suppose you'd have done right. Suppose you'd have done right and give Jim up. Would you have felt better than what you do now? Well, I was stuck. I couldn't answer that. So I reckon I wouldn't bother no more about it. But after this, always do whichever comes handiest at the time.
You're listening to the Wayback Machine on Gulf Islands Radio.
Now Orson Welles resumes our Campbell Playhouse presentation of Huckleberry Finn, starring Jackie Cooper.
Well, sir, 2 or 3 days and nights went by. I reckon I might say they swam by.
You'd better let me take over a while, Huck. I'm sure you're tired.
Oh, I'm not tired, Mr. Wells.
I'm sure you're tired, Huck. 2 or 3 days went by. I reckon I might say they swum by. They went along so quiet and smooth and lovely. It's a monstrous big river down there, sometimes a mile and a half wide. Huck and Jim would run at night and high daytimes, nearly always in the dead water under a towhead, and cut young cottonwoods and willows and hide the raft with them. They'd slide into the river and have a swim so as to freshen up and cool off, and then they'd sit down in the water where it was about knee-deep and watch the daylight come. Not a sound anywhere. Perfectly still. Just as though the whole world was asleep, only sometimes the bullfrogs cluttering. Maybe now and then a raft sliding by.
Please, Mr. Wells.
Oh, all right.
Then one morning, about daybreak, I took the canoe and crossed over a chute to the main shore. I wanted to get some berries for Jim's and my supper. Just as I was passing a place where kind of a cow path crossed the creek, there comes a couple of men, tearing up the path as tight as they could foot it, and hanging onto a couple of the rattiest, fattest carpetbags you ever did see.
Boy, save us, hide us. You got a canoe, boy. If you don't let us in, it'll be the same as murder. Quick, boy, quick, you can hear them after us. Let us in. Jim, grab a hold of the canoe. We got company, Jim. I'll come to help.
Well, my boy, you will never regret it this year, good deed. No, sirree. My boy, you have saved the life.
2 lives, young man, 2 lives.
Don't you two know each other?
Not till we just met on the way, so to speak.
What got you into trouble, brother?
Well, sir, I've been selling a little article to take off the tartar from the teeth, and it does take it off, too, and generally the enamel along with it. But I stayed about 1 night longer than I ought to. What about you, Bob?
Well, I've been running a little temperance revival in that town about a week, but somehow or another a little report got around last night that I had a way of putting in my time with a jug on the sly, and a fellow routed me out in the morning and told me the people was gathering on the quiet with their dogs and horses, and they'd be along pretty soon and give me about half an hour start, and then they'd run me down if they could, and if they got me, they'd hard feather me and ride me on the rail shore, so I didn't wait for no breakfast. I went hungry.
Say, I'm reflecting we might double team it together. What do you think?
I ain't indisposed. What's your line?
Friend of my trade. I do a little patent medicines, theater actor, tragedy, you know. Take a turn at mesmerism and phrenology, and then there's a change occasionally, teach singing, geography school for a change, sling a lecture sometimes. Oh, I do a lot of things. Most anything that comes handy as long as it's not work. What's your lay?
I've done considerable in the doctrine way in my time, laying on of hands is my best hold, preaching too, and working camp meetings and missionarying around.
Dear, alas.
What are you laughing about?
To think that I should have lived to be leading such a life and be degraded down in such company.
My darn your skin, ain't the company good enough for you?
Yes, it is good enough for me. It's as good as I deserve. Well, who fetched me so low when I was so high? I did it myself. I don't blame you, gentlemen. Far from it. I don't blame anybody. I deserve it all. Oh, let the cold world do its worst. One thing I know, that somewhere there's a grave waiting for me. The world may go on just as it's always done. Take everything from me. Loved ones, property, everything. But it can't take away my little old grave. Someday I'm going to lay down in it and forget it all. My poor broken heart will then be at rest. I ain't blaming you, gentlemen. I brought it upon myself. Yes, I did. I did it all myself.
Brother, brought you down from where? Where was you brought down from?
Oh, you wouldn't believe me. The world never believes so. Just let it go, let it go. Let it pass, no matter. The secret of my birth.
Secret of your birth? Do you mean to say, brother? Do you mean to tell
Gentlemen, I am going to reveal it to you, for I feel that I may have confidence in you. By rights, gentlemen, I am a duke.
A duke? No, you can't mean it.
Yes, my great-grandfather